This episode had to have been one of the most emotion-inducing pieces of Star Wars content to come out in recent days. The raw emotion and nostalgia that came rushing back made me feel like I was 5 years old again, going to see Revenge of the Sith for my birthday, ironically, in my Darth Vader costume. Now, we have a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. Welcome to another episode of The Breakdown, and be warned, as always, spoilers ahead. As we dive right into this episode, the Slave One is in hot pursuit of the Imperial shuttle carrying Dr. Pershing. Now, Boba hits this ship with ion cannons and disables the ship. He orders a boarding party, and Din and Cara board the ship before an Imperial pilot grabs him, holding him hostage. He begins to taunt Cara with the destruction of Alderaan, her home planet, claiming he was present when they quote-unquote blew it to pieces, and goes into how millions died on the Death Star and how the rebels, at their core, were just a bunch of terrorists. Before he can continue this, she shoots him point blank, taking us into the next scene. They go to an unnamed planet, tracking Bo-Katan, and as they land, we get to see her ship, the Gauntlet, for the first time ever in live action, which I thought was really cool and a nice callback back to the Clone Wars. Once they enter the bar and ask for help, a very unwilling Boba Fett says, "Let's go. We don't need them," which sets off Bo and her partner, and she turns to him and says, "You are a disgrace to your armor." He quickly replies, "It was my father's," before she snaps back, "Don't you mean your donor?" For those who don't know, Jango Fett ordered an unaltered clone with no accelerated aging to be his quote-unquote son in the prequel trilogy before he met his end by Jedi Master Mace Windu. She means this purely to insult him, saying that as a clone, he cannot be a Mandalorian like his donor, like she said before him, who served as leader on the opposite side in the Mandalorian Civil Wars, hence the clear rivalry, but I'll go further into that on a later video. A fist fight breaks out before quickly being broken up, and they agree to work together to save the child. Bo gets to challenge Gideon in trial by combat and take back the Darksaber. The Darksaber in Mandalorian culture is a symbol of power. It allows one to rule Mandalore, but we will cover that a little bit more later in this video. The group begins planning their assault on Gideon. Dr. Pershing helps them with absolutely no resistance, which honestly I can't say is too surprising, as loyalty to the Empire these days doesn't seem to be plentiful. But as he goes over the schematics of the ship, he tells them that the Dark Troopers will be a problem. They spring their plan into action, pretending to be attacking the shuttle and claiming that they must land on the cruiser immediately. Gideon deploys the TIE fighters in response to go after Boba. Once Bo-Katan safely lands the ship on the cruiser, or more of a crash landing, Boba makes light work of the TIEs and jumps away. We don't see him for the rest of the episode, and honestly, I'm kind of glad I was wrong on this part, and if you watched my last video, you'll know that, well, my theory didn't exactly come to light. Once the squad lands, they come and they show the Empire they don't stand a single chance, and they quickly make their way through the ship. Mando follows the plan and silently slips through the halls, making his way towards Grogu. The Dark Troopers begin to walk out of their chamber, and before Mando has time to react, one slips through, but he's able to close the door. They fight, and Din comes very close to losing. He finally wins with his Beskar spear and releases the rest of the platoon into space. Or so we think. The girls arrive on the bridge, taking it with ease. As Din arrives at the cell block, he sees Gideon holding the Darksaber to Grogu, holding him hostage. They make a deal. Gideon gets to keep the Darksaber, and the child goes free. He says he's got what he needs from the child, his blood, which I theorize will very likely be used in the revival of our old friend Palpatine, or even more likely, Snoke. Once Din turns his back, Gideon quickly attacks him with the Darksaber, trying to catch him off guard. They begin to duel, Mando pulling out his Beskar spear and slowly making short work of the Imperial leader. Din bests him in trial by combat, taking him to the bridge and acquiring the Darksaber. We instantly see Bo-Katan looking at him in a mix of fear and anger as she sees Mando holding what she needs so desperately. She knows that she must now fight Din to win the Darksaber and the right to rule Mandalore. Gideon laughs evilly, explaining what we all know to be true. Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, is now the rightful ruler of Mandalore. Even whenever he offers the saber up, she cannot take it, for, as she says, the power is not in the blade, but the story. The arguing is quickly interrupted as the Dark Troopers are flying back, boarding the vessel in force. As an entire platoon of them land on and start marching their way to the bridge, the Moff thinks he's won. Mando could barely destroy one, let alone an entire platoon, which is 40 to 50 units. Things start to look grim before the unthinkable happens. A moment which myself and 5 others in my watch party made us scream like little girls. A lone X-Wing flies into view and then lands on the ship. We now find out that it is my childhood hero, the hero of legends, the son of the great chosen one, Luke Skywalker. Luke slowly makes his way through the ship, destroying every Dark Trooper in his path with ease, showing us how powerful he really has now become. He slices his way through 40 Dark Troopers. It shows us how much power he's really gained over these last 6 years. Gideon tries to kill himself, which shows us really how legendary Luke has become at this point in the galaxy. The Empire know how truly powerful he is, and he strikes fear into even the most ruthless of leaders. He makes his way to the bridge using a large amount of Force abilities, further demonstrating his power as a now newly claimed Jedi Master. He walks through the emerald green haze, and Din asks, "Are you a Jedi?" "Yes," he simply replies, removing his hood, and we see a de-aged Mark Hamill. A truly heartwarming moment to be sure. He reaches out to Grogu, calling him. Grogu says goodbye to Din as he removes his helmet. Something we thought honestly would never happen again. He stares into the eyes of the closest thing he has as a child and says goodbye. Grogu waddles over to R2-D2, who screams in excitement, another moment which really made my heart flutter. Luke takes Grogu in his hands and says one last line, "May the Force be with you." The doors close, the screen goes black. End of season 2. Well, not quite. In the most Marvel-esque way possible, we get an end-credit scene, which is something that is fairly unheard of for Star Wars. But we're brought to Tatooine, Jabba's palace. Fennec and Boba quickly make their way into the throne room and kill everyone, leaving one last person atop the throne. He's told that he thought Boba was dead and heard rumors that he may have been alive. Before he can finish, Boba shoots him mid-sentence and quickly throws him off, taking his place on the throne. He is now Boba Fett, king of the underworld. We are hit with what I believe will possibly be a new show titled The Book of Boba, but it's too early to tell. We discuss it more on the podcast that I recorded today, and I'll be releasing more than likely the day after this video, so stay tuned for that. With that, we've come to an end. The end of an amazing, wonderful season that has left me hungry for more and honestly excited to be a Star Wars fan. There will be many videos to come, and you can be sure of that. But until then, I bid you farewell, and I'll see you in the next one.